move on to the Units tab, and I want my dimensions to be in decimal format. I want them to be horizontal, meaning relative to my dimension line. Decimal places, I normally will roll back to 2. The decimal separator, if you were working in Canada, you would want to use a comma rather than a decimal. I leave it at the default. And round linear distances to 2 places to match my decimal places. And I also like to suppress leading zeros and trailing zeros. So if the building length happened to be 45 feet, because we specified 2 decimal places, it would be inclined to print 45.00. Whereas if I tell it to suppress any trailing zeros, it will print on the screen 45. I prefer that. You can choose to leave it unselected. Again, it's just a personal preference. And for angular dimensions, depending on the format that you want to use, you'd specify that here, how many decimal places again, and whether you want to suppress zeros. Now down here is a part of the Units dialog that isn't well understood, and I'd have to say by me personally for quite a long time. If you wanted to be dimensioning an enlarged view, you've copied a portion of your drawing and let's say you've upsized it by a scale factor of 2. But you still want to dimension inside that detail. But you want the numbers to represent that feature as it is shown at 1:1. So you can do that. You can accomplish that right here by putting in a comprehensive scale factor. And what that means is if you've upscaled your detail by 2 times, you'd actually want the value, the dimension that it measures, to actually print at 50% of its scale. So you'd put in 0.5 so that it would take that measurement that it has just determined, and it would reduce it by 50% because you've scaled it up by 100%. I hope that isn't too confusing, but you can accomplish that here. It isn't normally used all that often, but this is where you can accomplish that. Alternate units, if you wanted to show millimeters, if you wanted to show both standard and metric units, this is where you would do that. I don't typically take advantage of that because I'm not sharing my work outside the US. And the Reserved tab allows you to place a background color behind your text. I have not changed any of these values myself personally, but feel free to experiment. So it can be just as simple as assigning a name to your select new, assign it a dimension style name, go to arrows, apply an arrowhead size, text, pick your text style, assign it a text height. We don't use tolerancing typically, and then just jump to the units, specify your decimal places and whether you want to suppress zeros. So you can create dimension styles very quickly, because most of these options you're not typically going to take advantage of. So we've created a new dimension style. We're going to say OK, and now we're going to go back and we're going to choose a linear dimension again, and we're going to pick two ends of that building, and notice it's using our current dimension style. It's using the arrows, the size of the arrows, the text, and the text height that we specified in our dimension scale. Create as many dimension styles as you feel you need, and you can share them from one drawing to another quite easily. If you set up your text styles and dimension styles in a blank drawing and then save it as a Carlson template, when you create a new drawing from that template, all of this will be set up for you. But sometimes you'll have some information, you'll have a text style that you created in another drawing and you want to bring it into this drawing. So we're going to go to the Layers dialog, which is right next to the Layers pull down, or you can find it under View, Layer Control, and I happen to have two drawings open. Well, I want to copy a dimension style that I have in this drawing, and you'll notice all the open drawings would be listed right here on the left. I'm going to select Dimension Styles under this drawing, and Roman D is one that I commonly use, so I'm going to select that. If I wanted, I could select more than one dimension style by holding the Control key on the keyboard and then picking as many dimension styles as I wanted to copy from this drawing. And then you can let go of the Control key, and then with the mouse hovering over one of the highlighted dimension styles, right button, copy, and now we'll just reduce that and come down to the drawing that we're currently in and pick Dimension Styles. Come over to this area of the dialog and right button, paste. And I'm going to say replace because I happen to have one in there with the same name. But you'll notice those dimension styles from the other drawing were now copied into this drawing. So that can be quite a time saver. And again, the best way to do this would be to include them in your drawing template so that you only do it once. Now let's take a look at some of the other dimensioning commands that are available to you. So we've talked about linear dimensioning, which will only dimension horizontal and vertical dimensions. The next one, and this one is probably my most popular one, and it would be aligned. And again, you'll find those same commands under Draw, Dimension, Aligned. There's aligned. Now, how does align differ from linear? Well, it will place a dimension in line with your beginning and end selections. So let's do that. It's asking us for the origin of our first extension line. Well, let's say that it's going to be that same corner, but for some reason I want to give a diagonal dimension to this other corner. So I'll pick that. Obviously I have my entity snaps on to make this a lot easier. And notice what it did. It created a dimension in alignment with my beginning and ending selection. That's align. Well, you can use align for any angular orientation, including horizontal or vertical. Let me demonstrate. Beginning, end. We'll do it again. Beginning, end. So my preference is to always use the aligned command over the linear. You can also dimension angular features dimension, angular, and it's asking us to select a line, arc, or circle. Well, let's say that we want the angle between these two walls. Well, let's pick that wall, and it's now asking us for the other line. There and there, and you can see it's 90 degrees. But also notice, because my text style, I'd set it up with a suffix of the with the feet symbol, it included that here. So I would want to create a different text style that didn't include that, and then change my dimension style so that it did not include that. But we're illustrating the different dimensioning features, so I think it will be fine for illustrative purposes. Now let's just create a circle so that I can show you how you would dimension a diameter and a radius. Draw, dimension, radial. We'll choose dimension first, and it says select the arc or circle. And it included the diameter symbol in with the text. Let's change the dimension style. So that you can see the difference between that and radius. Dimension, radial, radius. Choose the circle. And you can see it will place an R as a prefix to the dimension, whereas with diameter it will use the diameter symbol. There are other dimensioning options available to you. You can experiment with them. I don't typically use baseline or ordinate dimensioning with civil applications, but very limited application in septic system design. And that's dimensioning and dimension styles.